Hello, my name is Elliot Valentine.
And I'm Mel Horniak.
And together we make Melliot. So we write queer speculative musicals. If you haven't checked out our stuff before, there will be links down below.
Some musicals we've written are most recently Ghost Story, which is about two interracial gay couples in the same Montana house 100 years apart. And then we have Adamandi, which is a dark academia horror musical about a deadly contest at a elite university. And then we also have The Art of Pleasing Princes, which is like a fantasy palace story.
Yeah, so this video might contain spoilers for all of the shows.
Yeah.
This is kind of unofficially for Adamandi Fan Week, which is a beautiful fan-created initiative. We are very late to Adamandi Fan Week, but
Not very late, like
yeah,
a week late.
yeah. But this will be fine. But we will also be answering questions from other shows and in general. So.
Yeah.
Malicious Devourer asks, did Vincent kill Adrian and Preston too, or did Ambrose technically kill them in the marble?
Like, I think the way I was envisioning the marble is that it is like a suspended animation thing. I think that like their hearts are beating but very slowly. And probably they will eventually crumble to dust under the like ruins of the gym or whatever. Yeah. I guess I always had this vision of someone in an archaeological dig like breaking open a statue's arm and finding bone inside. But like I don't think they're like conscious at the time that Vincent kills them. They're both complicit in this, but I think what Ambrose is doing is like fate worse than death. And I think what Vincent is doing is like ending their lives entirely.
Yes. I guess we don't actually see, so it's up to you. Like,
yeah, like it's up to you.
He could, like, during intermission be like, you know, like, do a little slicing.
I always assumed that, like, after Vincent kills Ambrose, he goes and, like, uses his scalpel to put the other Marmori out of their misery in some way. But it happens during intermission, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's up to you. Decide.
Withers Sweetmeat asked, would any characters from any of your musicals watch Skibidi Toilet? I'm deferring to you on this one.
Skibidi. I think, like, there's a fake answer and a real answer. I think my fake... I'm not like...
A Skibidi head?
I'm not well-versed.
I guess they're all Skibidi heads,
Yeah,
right?
they're all Skibidi heads. Yeah. I'm not well-versed on Skibidi, but I feel like Rowan Astor would enjoy it because of the epic scale and citywide destruction that I often see in those videos when they fight each other. Like, I feel like the stakes are very high and tense, almost like killing your father.
Yeah.
The real answer is I feel like Anthony would be the one most likely to come across them because
he's like
he's on social media all the time. So
I think it depends on watch.
Oh,
like
that's
I
true.
think it
like
would
the whole
enter his
saga.
eyeballs, but I don't know if he'd be like, I'm
like sitting down.
I'm a huge Skibidi
I feel like
Toilet
Rowan
person.
Astor would be like an iPad baby. Frog Mom asks whether there's a reason that Ambrose and his people lift books instead of weights in Sound Body, Sound Mind. Is that part of the mental discipline he's talking about, or is it just like staging wise we couldn't put weights on stage?
Yeah, so this is a fun story in the sense that we did initially think of getting either real weights, and then we were like, okay, we can't dent the floor of the theater by dropping the... Like, it's about the dropping. Like, they have to, like, struggle to lift it and then drop it. And we really wanted to have that, like, physical sound and reaction to emphasize that they're pushing past their limits. But if you drop a 10-pound weight on a theater stage, they'll kill you. So we didn't do that. And then we thought about using fake weights, right? Like made out of styrofoam or something. But they would gently drift to the ground.
Wouldn't they bounce? Wasn't that the thing?
Yeah, it was that they would bounce.
Yeah,
It would not look like real weights.
Yeah.
So that was not ideal. So we're like, okay, we need a mid-weight thing. And we also had all of these books from like our like heightened academia set thing. So you're like, okay, that gives us a nice loud sound. And it is already, like, the red lights and everything put that already in kind of like a dreams space. So I felt pretty justified in being like, also they're going to lift these big heavy books. And you can also imagine that it's like they're working out in like their dorm room and don't want to go get weights from the real gym. So I feel like it worked on multiple levels. The actors could have done it, but the theater probably would have not allowed us to. This one comes from Withers Sweetmeat, who asked, what exactly is Stutton Hall? It kept being mentioned, but I don't think we're ever told what it actually is / what it's used for.
It is a building.
Okay.
I always imagined it as kind of like a campus center kind of building, or like a big where like the important speeches happen, and it has a Stutton green that I think they mentioned would be like a little field in front of it. This happens a lot on Princeton's campus.
I always imagined it as Nassau Hall, which
Yes.
is like if you've seen a photo of Princeton's
We can
campus,
put a photo
it's
in
that
this
building.
video, yes.
And they light it up in creepy colors at night sometimes, which
Yes.
I think
they like to do
was very
orange
vivid.
for Princeton, which is red.
Orange for
to
Princeton,
everyone else.
Yeah,
Yes.
it looks like it's burning down a little. But they
bleeding,
also
yeah.
have like a little like quad outside of it that people
Yes.
walk across a lot.
The significance when they say like they're going to do XYZ on Stutton Hall is like it's the first place that tourists see when they come into
Yes.
the campus.
It's about like where people are
Yeah.
taking photos, like when their kids get into Artist University
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's meant to be like it's very symbolic in terms of like it's been here since the beginning, and also like it's very emblematic of like the old institutions there, like the things that no one remembers why or how they were there. And I bet what they do in there right now is like administration.
Yeah.
Like I bet that's where all the offices are. Like it used to be a classroom, now it hosts like dean's brunches.
Yeah,
and
probably
stuff.
the head of the school is in there.
Probably the head of school is in there.
From Toasted Valentine, and the question is, what were the most difficult scenes to write in Adamandi, Princes, and Ghost Stories?
I'll start with Adamandi. Like there's the boring answer, which is like connective tissue is always really hard to write.
I was gonna say the pyre scene. We were working that a lot in the rehearsal room and
Yeah.
figuring out like how long does that scene need to be? It used to be like twice as long.
Yeah.
Should it have music? Should it be a song? But it was just like a hard moment to pin down.
I think that one took a while in gestation. Yeah, there was more
Yeah.
Vincent talking. There was more back and forth with Beatrix as well.
Yes, now it's just coming in bonk.
But now it's like the one bonk. Yeah, I think also the sound body, sound mind scene, maybe that's just because we've been like working on it a lot
That's
in
true.
revisions.
The secret one that you don't know
The secret
about.
one that you
Yeah.
don't know about. But yeah, I don't know. That song is always difficult to contextualize within the show, and so eventually we ended up changing it a lot and thinking through how to make them sound like college students instead of like
Yes.
high school like bullies.
Yeah.
You know, because that show is trying to operate on a very like horror genre of character, I would say, as opposed to like a more exaggerated musical comedy style kind of thing. And I think that scene always irked me as like a relic of that earlier style.
Yeah, and the song also like like they do a little like kick line in the middle. Like it's
Yeah.
very much a different tone
Like,
from the
it's
rest of the
fun.
show. So like we had to think through like, is that the tone we want or the tone that's best for the rest of the show?
Is
as
it best for
well?
the rest of the show? Is it good for setting up Vincent's
Yeah.
arc the right way?
Yeah.
And for Prince's, it was really hard to get Jason and Louis' confession right. The like, why haven't they confessed their love for each other yet?
Oh, yeah.
And it used to be a bunch of like back and forth monologues where they were just
For
like, I remember this about you, I remember this about you. And like, I think I just wanted to pack it with detail because I was like, I really want like this sudden burst of like love and excitement, like to capture that moment in their lives. And eventually that turned into If I Knew You Then, which is often a song can replace like pages and pages of book.
Yeah.
But I just remember it being a really hard song to write because it was really important to get across like their affection for each other in like a short amount of time.
I think for me in Princes, framing the like Louis assassination attempt stuff was hard because that was like Princes originally began as a novel that we were writing for NaNoWriMo way back when, and it very much feels a little like a novel in that like if I were outlining it from scratch for a musical, I probably wouldn't have put all of those little plot intricacies in there, and it was hard to frame like, oh my god, we gotta share who this like prince is, we gotta share why Louis wants to kill him, we gotta share like how he wants to kill him, and all within like the first quarter
like,
of the show,
15 minutes
yeah,
of the show.
and then we have to watch him do it and then fail, but like
which is like that's a whole act one in a different show.
Yeah.
But we had just so much stuff to get into.
that it wasn't like about the main killing of the king gets introduced so late in the show, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then Ghost Story.
The scene at the end of Act 1.
Oh my god. Yes.
So
sorry.
this isn't in the reading, so you don't know this. Anthony and Joey have this like big argument at the end of Act 1 that leads to the timelines kind of fracturing and joining together. So it was a very like load-bearing scene.
And so it was really hard to get them to the point where it felt like they were authentically fighting because again, Ghost Story was this gesture at more realistic characters, so it always felt like we were making them fight instead of like it arising naturally out of what you would say to your partner who you're trying to get engaged to.
We had to get them to a point where they would do these things to make them split the timeline, but also not make them hate each other enough that the audience loses faith in their relationship and doesn't want to see them mend it in the second act. Toasted Valentine asks, was Quincy going to stab out Vincent's eye while their own hands are burned? And intentional parallel to Quincy talking about cutting off one's hand and plucking out an eye during Litany. Is Quincy intentionally going for the eye, thinking that taking that scripture literally could theoretically be penance for all of Vincent's sins?
Yes.
Okay. And with that, thank you so much for attending our Q&A. We answered a lot of questions, so we're probably going to split this up into several parts. So stay tuned for more stuff in the future. And thank you for sending in your questions. Hopefully this helps.